Well, the thing, part of it too, is Angela was the client that came through, and he's the one that got approved and is buying the place. So it's like, we need him, but his motivation to purchase is like right there. Like he just doesn't. So it's Angela pushing the purchase, but he's buying the house. So it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, we're stuck right now.
Yeah.
And we don't really want to push him too much. But Jessica is going out all day with Fariza on Thursday.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So hopefully
that'll be a good one.
Yeah. And then Abigail and Mark are kind of throwing a few things around. We've been working with them for about 1.5 years.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so they're kind of, we finally got them to start kind of talk about making a move.
Cool.
And that was a big thing because they don't want to sell their house right now. And so we're just like, well, why don't you just turn it into a rental? Because you don't want to live, and they're like, we don't want to live here anymore. We want to be up in Winter Garden. Go buy a place. You own this one outright.
Yeah. You're good.
Yeah.
You're fine.
So just rent it. You don't have to sell it right away. And,
Yeah.
There's always options. I mean, I wanted the listing. It's a really nice house, but it's like, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time.
Right.
And they want to get to Winter Garden. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself? So they basically have the summer because they want their boys to start school. So, geez, I guess we could start now. Hey, Trent.
Hey, Trevor. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good. I'm good.
Good. So I don't know. Maybe we'll put some of that stuff in there. We keep doing that where we're just having conversation.
Yep. Just that's how life kind of goes.
That is how life goes.
Yeah.
But we were talking about some clients that they live on a golf course over in Kissimmee, and they want to move up to Winter Garden, and they're hesitant because the interest rates aren't great. But I'm just like, you guys are going to pay this off so quickly. They paid their last house off in like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
it's kind of a temporary thing then. You're not as concerned about the rate when you're getting what you want.
Exactly.
And that's the main thing. It's not too dissimilar. I was talking hard money with one of my other LOs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't really talk too much rate when it comes to hard money because it's temporary. You're getting a line of credit to, get in and out of this property, right? So if you're going to take and sell it, the goal is to flip it as fast as possible. Maybe you're doing a 1 to 3 month renovation, depending on what it needs and permitting, but you're out quick.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to do the Burr method and you're going to take and refinance this and, keep it, as soon as you can either do no seasoning, which is right away once everything's done, or you wait the 6 months because some people like to do that, you're out. So you just have to kind of build it into your budget. So rate doesn't matter as much as cost is what we tell people too.
Which makes sense. I mean, when you're looking to make money off of somebody else's money, it's like, it feels like they're doing you a favor. So a high interest rate shouldn't really matter as long as you're still able to make the money work.
Yeah.
Make the math work if it's mathing.
If the maths, and that's probably the best way to look at it. Like, you're getting what you want, and if your focus is going to be so driven on paying it off, it's going to be so minimal. It's only the people that have like the 30-year fixed that they're going to make every payment. They're like, this $350,000 house is going to cost me $1.5 million. When you make all the payments and the interest goes on top, that's really the issue. But if you're diligent and you're dedicated to paying it off, then by all means, the rate's not as much of a hindrance as finding the right property that you love.
Yeah. Man, you're like a poet. You're like a market poet.
Oh, yeah. It's just, you have enough of the conversations that you have to tell people what's important to them, right?
They do get hung up on. Well, that's the thing, is they get hung up on what they hear. They regurgitate what they hear, what the media says and all that stuff. And then they get hung up on things rather than just logically looking at it and saying, does this make sense?
Yeah.
In my life, because I can't tell you how many times people, I don't know if it's a good time to purchase. Listen, if you're ready to buy, it's always a good time to purchase.
Yes.
So, it's whenever you're ready. Do you have the down payment? Like, do you qualify for the loan? Is that monthly payment fit within your buy box, within your budget? If it does, then you should probably buy.
You should.
I mean, the longer you wait, the more you're just cutting into that equity and that potential down the road. So
right, yeah, you're missing out on the gains. You're missing out on all the other things. But the other side of it too is you can hear all these naysayers and be like, everything's terrible. I mean, I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos, like where people are like, I posted a short form podcast, like, you think people are just trying to decide between this and that? And it's like, well, the reality is you can always find something terrible, but you have to look locally, even like as local as inside your own house. Does this make sense for my family? Am I ready to do this? Is the payment affordable? To me, everyone has like a different perspective and like situation. You got to go for it.
I think so. I mean, I look at a lot of people in retirement right now, and you get in situations where most people don't have the retirement that they should have to have a comfortable retirement. And they do rely on their house proceeds later in life, whether that be a reverse home mortgage or, a HELOC, or even just selling it outright later. That equity that they built up through the years of paying into it is huge. It's very beneficial as you age, and especially if you're able to just pay stuff off. And then, of course, I keep hearing DeSantis talk about that no property taxes.
No property taxes.
So I think it's actually coming. At first, I was like, this just seems like kind of a play to 2026. But I'm like, why would he be saying this? Because he can't even run.
Right.
So it's not like it's a big deal. But he keeps talking about it, and I think it's going to be a real thing. I think it's a serious thing.
Setting up the next guy for it.
Yeah, Byron Donalds. I hope you're running. That's my choice. As we come down, we got a few years. I'm not too worried about that. Speaking of which, though, those tariffs are looking pretty good. I mean, this will come out a few weeks after we've already had great success. But China's already come to the table. Did you see that? China came to the table yesterday. We had a 90-day kind of, it's not a freeze, but it's a lowering of tariffs for 90 days while we work out more logistics. And when the UK did it like 2-3 days ago, I don't know if you saw it, but stocks and crypto just started skyrocketing.
Shooting back up. Yeah, it was good. The market was doing good on that.
So, and it's still doing that. So it's like, this is turning out to be pretty good. UWM, I think, posted yesterday or the day before that we were 13 or 16 basis points down. So that's good.
Yeah, it went down a little bit. Then I think
did it pop back up?
It popped back up. Yeah, I checked the 10-year a lot, which is a good guideline. It's the hey, this is going up or down. It's when I watch, and that was going up. So that kind of is indicator. Now maybe it's kind of going up because it's just rising with the market, and then it's going to drop back down when people pull back out. We'll have to just kind of see how it goes. But that's more of a driver for rates.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of. It's all speculation. Still a lot of ifs, and we're in a lot of gray area right here that we haven't really ever been into. I mean, we've done some of this stuff on a smaller scale, years and years ago, but a lot of this stuff is newer economic policy. It's not something that's been done with the size that we're doing it right now. But I think it's turning out really well personally, and I think we're running a yo-yo on the interest rates probably the rest of the year. But that's a good thing right now. If we could get income up a little bit, I mean, real income, maybe not like overall income, but gas is down like 30-40 cents in the last week. And I mean, things are just already starting to come down, that if you can get expenses down, then the real income is actually a lot more. I don't think the interest rate matters that much. And then the interest rate will come down the road, but I don't think it's a big thing right now.
No, I think there's always something that will lower it significantly, and that's when everybody will want to refinance. Every 5 to 7 years it happens. But you are right. We're in a good spot where even though it's kind of going up and down on a daily change, if you look at it, we're still within a moderate range, which is good because it keeps everything similar. You may on a given day have a better rate. You may have missed it by a couple of days and now it's a little bit higher. But it all comes back to is this transaction right for you? And you just have to just capitalize when it's here.
Yeah. And the thing is, the people that are purchasing right now are not going to be competing with the mass amount of people when the interest rates do go down. Like next year, I have a feeling it's going to shift relatively quickly from a buyer's market to a seller's market. Just like it shifted relatively quickly from a seller's market to a buyer's market. we felt like it took a while and whatnot, but I feel like that's because we just lie to people, or the media just lies to people. There's a certain point where like we were all saying for the longest time, when you get 3 months of inventory, you're at like a completely stable market. Anything above that is a buyer's market. Anything below that is a seller's market. And that's how it works, because it works off of supply and demand, you know? But you know, last year and stuff, we hit that marker and everybody's like, no, it's still, we're so good, you know? And it's like, no, okay, now we're just lying to ourselves, you know?
Right.
We're changing the standards.
Right.
You know? But
I think it's appetite too. People need their perspective to, you know, fit with what they want. Maybe some of these people are just, it's not the right time for them, so they're just looking for an excuse.
True.
Essentially, and maybe the rates are the big excuse that they have. You know, even you could have a ready buyer who's like, I'm ready to go. I got my down payment and like everything in place, but I just don't quite like the rates. But they're going to be the ones that are going to, when the rates are there, they're going to be in the masses, just like you said.
Right.
Right now, I think I saw in a recent appraisal, it said for the given area, 67% of home sales had concessions.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what that means? More buyers are able to get help with down payment assistance and different things, pay for closing costs. So more deals are getting through because sellers are willing to pay some of those costs. So that's huge, because as we shift, that's another thing. I was just thinking the price of homes was going to go up, and they're going to be competing with more people for a higher priced house with less houses on the market. But in addition, you know,
that's what kind of goes first. The full, you know, you're going to shift away from, you know, offers with concessions. You're going to shift away from that and into just, you know, hey, full price offer, no concessions. And then you're going to start to see it like go above. If we get to that more competitive, like, you know, rates, where people are like, oh, I just want to jump on, I need the house now. That's how it kind of goes. But I did a deal recently where somebody used down payment assistance and got seller concessions, and they got 80% of their deposit back at closing.
Wow. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the deals that are available right now. So people that don't quite have the down payment, but fit into that debt to income ratio, that's great. You know, credit score is just fine. They're able to get stuff done.
Yeah, and those are ones that need to transact at this time, because like you're going to get the smash deal. You're basically getting, you know, it's not free, but it's almost like a free house, right?
That is interesting you said that, because I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and I was like, the people that should be buying right now are those FHA, those VA buyers that in a good market, they're difficult to get accepted. You know, they're harder than a conventional where you have typically money down, you know, and so they have skin in the game.
Yeah.
Whereas like a VA and FHA, it's more stringent appraisals. You're just like, I'd rather not have to deal with the appraisal as much, you know?
Right.
So when you're accepting it as a seller later down the road, so that's who should be buying. You just hit it on the head. FHA and VA right now with the assistance programs, able to negotiate with the sellers and everything. Those are the people that should be purchasing right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they can refinance in a year. Like if all of a sudden interest rates go down to 4.5% next year, they won't.
Right.
You know? No. But if they do,
right, they're the easier ones to refinance.
Yeah,
the FHA ones too.
Yeah, so good point, dude. I like that.
Yeah,
because we're working with a lot of buyers right now that we're trying to negotiate concessions, and it sometimes too. You always have to have these conversations with the buyers too. It's just like, because you're going to make a lot more offers. You're not going to get everything accepted. You're going to make the sellers nervous about the appraisal because you know you're trying to put those seller concessions into the price of the home, you know, but in a buyer's market, you're hoping to get that price of the home down that much further where it's just, you know, you're breaking even. But it is like, you still have to convince both sides and they have to be on board and whatnot. So you're putting in more offers, and you're having to give your buyer, you know, consultation on what to expect.
Right. Yeah, you kind of build it all in and say, hey, this is how you do qualify. You have some people who are like, I can't bring everything to the closing table, and they are relying on sellers. I'm like, well, you need to transact during this time frame because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it on a lot of files. It's easier to ask for 6% because people kind of assume it because they're getting the price they listed for, but the market's really not there. I still feel like a lot of homes are overpriced. Too many yes agents saying, I will list it for that. I like that number.
Yeah, no, that's it's a valid point.
They find out later, like, oh no, it's not. It's not getting there. The offers aren't coming in at there until they start doing the price reductions.
Right.
And then you do price reduction, and then you got to give concessions. Like, you're kind of missing out. So if you just priced a little bit better, just would have worked out.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes with the sellers, it's very difficult to bring the sellers down. And it is one of those things, like, Jessica keeps track of all the listings we've lost.
Yeah.
But every single listing that we've lost in the last, for this year so far, we've lost 3. Every single one of them went up in like January or February and are still on the market.
Yeah.
They're overpriced.
Yeah.
So, and I just, 2 of them, I told the people I just wouldn't take the listing being overpriced. One of them, I said, I'll take it at this price because the house showed real well.
Yeah.
I was like, I think maybe with marketing we can make this up a little bit, but it's still on the market, and the marketing was terrible on that one. I think we had a conversation on this one before. The guy texted me. I called him. I was like, I couldn't get a hold of him. Finally, I sent him a text. And we had the listing presentation. And so the next week, I just want to know what's going on. Just tell me what's going on. Am I hired or not? And he's like, and he sent me a text. He's like, I decided to go with another agent. They have a database of over like 50,000 buyers and whatnot. And I was like, oh, so to this guy, like, a database of buyers like matters. And I was like, and so I told him in the text, I said, I completely understand. I regret, or I feel like I didn't explain my job as a listing agent a little bit better, because you just hired yourself a buyer's agent to sell your house. I said I should have done a better job explaining the difference between what a listing agent should do and a buyer's agent. You just hired a buyer's agent to sell your house. And he did. And you look at the marketing, you look at the pictures, you look at what the person's done. And I guarantee you can't even get a hold of that guy. I bet you the seller can't even get a hold of the agent at this point because it's been on the market for 4 months. I'm sure the agent's super embarrassed that it probably hasn't gotten any, looks or whatsoever. And I'm kind of glad I didn't take the listing, Yeah. But the point was, like, and sometimes I feel bad, like, just throwing that out there, but this guy needed to know. I was like, look, there's buyer's agents and there's listing agents. Listing agents market your home, and then they know how to talk to buyer's agents about, it's not about finding a buyer. Right. It's about finding the person that's going to bring the buyer, because very few people actually find the homes themselves. I mean, yeah, they'll look on Zillow and everything like that, but it usually takes an agent to get them to that point, And so our job is to market. That's all it is a listing agent, to market. Yeah. And rarely, even with 50,000, and I got my old CRM, I had 40-something thousand people in there. The problem is most of those people don't do anything. They're not anything.
Or they're not at that price point, or
they're not looking for something completely different or whatever. Yeah. They're in a different area or whatever. The fact is, our main squeeze is Zillow. And I keep coming back to this because, everybody as agents like to bash Zillow. But the fact is, if you want your listing to be promoted, you do what Zillow wants you to do to promote the listing. You have to do the 3D walkthroughs. You have to do the video walkthrough. You have to have a certain amount of HD photos. You have to, if it's vacant, you have to do a few AI generated virtual staging and whatnot. And floor plans, you have to write a good description. There's a certain things that have to hit in SEO in the description, And so you have to do certain things so that Zillow promotes you more, because Zillow's algorithm works the same as all algorithms. They want you to stay on the website. The longer you're on the website, the longer you're looking at that specific listing, the more they'll promote. Same with videos. The longer people are watching the videos, they're like, okay, so more people will probably like this. Yeah. And they promote it. And so if you're not going to do those things to get to the point where Zillow treats your listing as a prime premium listing, then you're just wasting your time and you're a buyer's agent. Right. So you may as well just go work with people and just escort them around and stuff. So, but yeah, the guy didn't reply after that, but it was one of those things. And they're Jessica was pointing this out. They're usually we sign for 6 months.
Mhm.
And so their 6 months are coming up in about another month or so, a little over a month.
Wow.
So at that point, when it goes expired, I'll probably reach out to him again, even though I was a little bit rude to him at the end. But the point was like, I don't like, and I took the hit. I was like, listen, I obviously didn't do a good enough job, because
that's on me.
if you hired a buyer's agent over hiring me as a listing agent, I did something wrong. So
yeah.
I thought I had a great presentation on that one too. I thought just we were a little back and forth. Maybe I should have been a little less combative about the price. I think that was the main thing. But he was really on the high end, and as you can see, it's not selling. And so it was one of those things where it's like you're on the high end. So if you do want to list it there, this is what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
We're going to have to put the time and money in.
Yep.
So, anyways, but that was one of them that we lost out on. It's still on the market.
Well, could come back around.
Yeah.
He decides he wants a listing agent instead of a buyer's agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so our shorts are getting a lot of views.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting a ton of views. Like they're averaging 1,000 plus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but one of them that hit we have like over 2,000 on a short is the 80-20 rule one. I don't know, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's always interesting. I'm wondering who's hitting the thumbs down button, because like I don't really care.
I don't like it.
No, because I see it and it promotes it even more. I don't like YouTube promotes it even more if it's like a thumbs down. So whenever we have like a 50% like rate on our shorts, they seem to start to skyrocket after some time, after like a couple days.
Yeah.
And so
people like this.
Yeah, they like to hate it. So so I did one on the 80-20 rule where it's like 80% of realtors are just they're not very good at their job. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. A lot of that 80% do it part time. They're working other jobs, and then they get their real estate license, and
I can do this nights and weekends.
Right. And so if you want to hire a part-time agent, that's what you're going to do, right?
Right. Part-time agent. Yeah.
So, but anyways, what's new with you?
Just kind of getting into the groove of things, ready for the summer boom. I think you're going to have a bit of, things start to kick off a little bit here. People are waiting for their kids to finish school to start looking. Maybe they can focus on a little bit more. Just kind of go from there.
Have you sold your second, or are you done with your second flip yet?
Yeah, it's on the market. It hasn't sold yet. Haven't found the right buyer. Okay. I had a couple people with some high interest during the open houses. A lot of notes and neighbors. It's kind of in that spot where there has been a lot of movement on the street.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been like in the home for a long time, and they're like, yes, I know so and so. Where everybody knows everybody on the street.
Right.
So. Not a lot of sales, but I think that average time on market's like 3 to 6 months on there, so it's a little kind of expensive.
Okay. Have you done a price reduction, or are you going to?
We did one. Yeah, we did one. We dropped like 11,000 off, I think. So.
I really don't think for most homes now's the time to do a price reduction. I think most people should be sticking firm, for the most part.
Yeah.
I think. There might be a little bit of waves and whatnot, but I do think that at this point, depending on your pricing, if you're way overpriced, you should take a reduction.
Right.
But if you're in that window of market value, I think you should write it right now.
I think that's what we're going to do. We did the one, and I think we're going to sit for like a while.
Yeah.
And just let it because if it does take time for inventory to move, you got to find the right buyer.
Yeah.
Then they're negotiate anyway when they come in.
Correct.
With their offer. So.
Yes. People are really big into negotiating right now. And then with the market just doing this, it's hitting weird people, like just hitting people weirdly. And so I just think that, most of our listings that are still active that have struggled a little bit, we're just like, let's just sit put right now.
Yeah.
I don't really want to take a price reduction right now,
Yeah.
On some of these, like there's one of them that it's a townhome. It's almost brand new. It's in Winter Garden. And the problem is there's just too many new builds going on. And then there's
tough.
Yeah. And then it was built, I think early 2024 is when the one we're selling is So they've only owned it a year. They had it as a rental, and there's quite a few others that are pre-built that are for sale in there as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's a nice townhome. It's a luxury townhome, but it's just, so I don't know. That one, we might take a small price reduction on just because it's all about competition in that area. It's just, and there's just too much. It's just, I don't know what to do with that, but that one's kind of an iffy one. Other than that, I think we're sitting put for the most part for most of our listings. Any of them that are, we don't have a lot that go too long typically. So we'll see. We've got one in our neighborhood that we're really struggling with. On Oakway. If anybody wants to live close to me and on Oakway, it's a really nice house. The problem is it's not updated, but the owners bought it basically brand new, and they're just an older couple, and so it's not updated at all, but it's in good condition,
Gotcha.
like they've
it's that typical, you're not bad enough to be wholesale,
right,
and you're not good enough to be retail.
That's exactly it. And like the views on Zillow and everything are just, and it's just like, man, we've tried to do everything to get this going. Jessica wants them to take out a loan and do a small renovation. She thinks it'll help out a lot in the sale. I think so too, because everything that's pending in our neighborhood looks nice.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look nice, it sits.
Yep.
So that's the market right now, and that's a buyer's market. Buyers want move-in ready.
Right, move-in ready, so, yeah. It needs to be exactly right.
Yep. Yeah, I bought during the seller's market, and I was like, I'll just fix all this other crap that's falling apart and overpay. But you know what? I sold, and somebody overpaid on my house. So
yeah,
that's how it works when you buy and sell in the same market.
Yep.
So yeah, it's I think the market's going to be pretty decent though. I think I see a lot of. I've been saying I'm always a positive guy. So I think I always say that the market's like on a positive trajectory. But I did have I had a conversation with this guy that I go to church with. I was picking my daughter up at his daughter's birthday party. And we were over at the house.
Yeah.
And it's always something where you just probably never talk politics. Even though we're both like conservative people, just agree with the kind of the same thing. Like we just disagreed. And he was telling me that there was going to be a huge economic crash, a huge recession, possibly depression. And I'm just like, I just don't see it. And he's like, well, you have to go by the numbers. And I'm like, that's what I'm going by. He's like, no. Like the statistics that like every 12 to 14 years this happens. And I'm like, oh yeah, but can't we just look at, rather than just every 12 to 14, because I'm one that believes that every 12 to 14 years, they purposefully do that to reset things so it doesn't run off.
Right.
So I don't think we're in a position that they need to purposefully do that. I don't think we're in a runoff position. So even though it's been 12 to 14 years or whatever he was saying, I was like, I just don't see it. He's like, but it's in the market cycles. And I was like, I'm just saying that there's somebody manipulating those cycles.
Yep.
And I feel like they're not manipulating it right now.
Or they don't need to, because there's enough other stuff going on that we're kind of at the baseline they wanted at.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I just think we had somewhat stagflation for a little bit, but the price of oil came down 3 months ago, and now the price of gas is finally starting to come down. So they were holding on to it for a little bit because they didn't want the success, but now the success is happening. So I just don't see it. So like that was the argument. We were at his house. I'm like, I get what you're saying. I just don't believe in the market cycles because they're manipulated. I don't think they're going to get manipulated this time. I just think that we're going to be able to ride this out a little bit. And so I'm sorry. Maybe I'm an optimist. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. I'm looking at what I saw happen before versus what's happening now, and I just don't see it.
Everything's a bit different too.
It's completely different. And part of the issue is I'm with him in the fact that credit card debt is like, it's like they're struggling right now.
Yeah.
But I also see a little bit of reprieve too. Like I feel like people are starting to not run off anymore. That was running off. The credit card debt was running off.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're starting to put a cap on that, and people are starting to get stuff figured out. So I don't know. I'm just optimistic.
I think it's better to be optimistic than, just let everything else drag you down, because the media does too good a job of that.
Yeah.
So
they purposefully do it. They just they're a bunch of traitors.
Yeah. They just want the clicks and the likes.
Yeah,
or the dislikes.
I feel like they just want whatever team that they're on. They just want their team to win.
Yep.
I'm just like, I'm team everybody. I'm just team US.
Yeah.
I want everybody to succeed. That's it.
Yep.
You know.
That's the best way to be.
Yeah. So team US. That was a great one.
There we go. Absolutely.
Thanks, Trent. Thanks,
you.
everybody.
See you in the next one.
All right.